Hi, and welcome to the Locker Room. I am one of your hosts, Justin Hamm, and I am excited to be here with you today. We have a special guest. He's back for the second time. We have we have NCAA soccer player Austin Johns with us on the ones and twos, as they say, and we're just so excited to be able to touch in, check in, see what's going on with you, Austin. So, since
Yeah.
the last time we've talked, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Well, the last time we talked, I was a freshman. So order of operations, now I'm a sophomore. And
That's right.
sophomore season, soccer-wise, is ended.
Okay.
Currently, it's Christmas break, so halfway through the the year. Uh, yeah, the soccer season happened. We were 4-13-1.
Okay.
Not great, but considering first year of real NCAA, first year in the new conference, competing in the coast to coast schools, the schools were legit. We played seven nationally ranked opponents, two nationally ranked Division 1 opponents. So we had really tough schedule, but most games we competed, and that's kind of all we could really ask for man each game. All of our opponents were bigger, faster, stronger, man for man, so we just had to go
Mhm.
out and try and get results. So it was a lot of growth had to happen mentally, physically, as a team, just everywhere. So all in all, I thought it was a good year to experience that and to be part of an NCAA program for the first time. It was special, and you know, racking up like numbers, getting assists and scoring my first NCAA goal was pretty special. Stuff that you train for, dream of, and when it happens, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And for those of you who might not have listened to the first episode a little over a year ago, when we talked with Austin, he was at a very different stage. So you might have gathered from that answer that he actually got significant playing time this year versus his first year where he barely saw the field at all. So talk a little bit about the difference between your freshman year and sophomore year in terms of like actual soccer.
Actual soccer, I would say personally, I mean, freshman year I played 59 minutes all year. This year I played 59 minutes in my first game of the season.
Hmm.
So it was a huge step up for me personally, on paper. I played a little over 600 minutes all year, which is significantly more than last year.
Sure.
I had a role, started 4 games. I had 5 goal contributions. I was a part of, wins, losses, all of it. It was just I had a significant role, I felt. I averaged like 35 minutes a game. So it's definitely you know, easy for people to say like, man, I'd be okay just going to, sit the bench, just be part of the program. But once you're in it, it's just not that. You wanna play, you wanna win, and when you're not playing and you're not winning, it can be really difficult. So we all experienced that this year, but from an individual standpoint, it was a massive
Yeah.
step up for me, and to see, all of the training kind of finally pay off in a way of rewards with minutes and production on the field. That's kind of what all athletes strive for. So it was
Yeah,
pretty good.
absolutely. And that's just a testament to the kind of athlete that you are, someone who is unafraid to work and to do what's needed to improve your craft and get better at it. So in the last 2 years though, so going from high school, 144 career goals in your
Hmm.
high school career, second in Section 2 history, and I think fifth all time or fourth all time in New York State. I think fifth now.
Yeah.
You prolific goal scorer. So then just kind of starting all over again, that must have been kind of frustrating, but we see with hard work how that's paid off. What about off the field? So how have you been able to process playing time, college life, starting over, going from being one of the best in the New York State to now fighting for minutes to then
Yep.
cracking the rotation? But then it even seems like this year it was kind of up and down. Like you'd
Very.
start
It
and then
was like
you
a roller
wouldn't.
coaster. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what were some of the emotions and the thought process that you had going into the season or experiencing during the season?
Yeah, I mean, one week it would be excitement, the next week it would be immense frustration.
Mm.
One week it would be like, more excitement, and the next week it'd be a lot of discouragement. I think that's just sports, and if anybody's around the game of soccer, especially the unpredictability of it, not just results wise, but in every aspect of that game, you can be, on cloud nine one week, and then the next week you're like rock bottom again. So for me, I've always just trained my mind, and I think my mindset is my greatest asset, and I've always kept that with me, and that's the only reason I'm still playing college soccer, because there's just had to go through a lot of discouragement, a lot of major downs, but the fact that I was able to just stay with it mentally, I think is the reason I'm still playing and I still have like I like talk to my parents like I'm juiced up for next year. Like I'm just ready. And there's like
Mhm.
no part of me that's like, oh, I still got 2 years of college
Yeah.
soccer left. And there's no part of me that's like I think I need to be done. Like I just want to keep going and going. And I attribute that to my mindset. And with building the mindset is a lot of prayer. And I don't want to
Mm.
sound cliche, but that's truly like it, the Bible says to be still and know that I'm God. And that's really hard for me because I love to have control
Mm.
over, anything. I think most people do. So with, my college career, I really don't have control over most of it, as far as what's next for me, what's next semester, what's next year look like. I can't see that. And part of that frustrates me because I just want to know like what's going to happen. I just, throughout the season, like I just want to know what's going to happen next game, what's going to happen next week, next month. But I truly, that's out of my hands. And this year I did find a lot of peace and just surrendering it. I prayed like basically the same prayer every day, just surrendering what's next, to God's feet, let him handle it. I know he's not going to put me anywhere where I'm going to fail. So it was hard, in life, on the earth aspect of like I want to know what's next. I want to be successful. I don't want to fail. But ultimately it's up to God and to mature that way. My sophomore year compared to my freshman year, that
Mm.
definitely helped me a lot because, a lot happens in life. So that was
Yeah.
definitely immensely important for me.
So you mentioned, and this again, like feel free to share as much or as little as possible, but you mentioned that this year had some kinds of discouragement. What did that look like for you?
Um, I would say for every athlete to understand results wise, 13 losses in a year. I didn't have meant much more than 13 losses in my whole high school career. So it's like we're losing and it's like we know each game that we were heading into the game like we're gonna try and scrap something from this game. Whereas my whole career it was like we were gonna win this game and now it was like we're gonna try not to lose this game. It was a really hard from that standpoint to just week in, week out, we're like fighting so hard and the results just are not going our way. Um, and then the unpredictability of like minutes. I mean, there's some games, one game I started and I played 75 minutes, and then the next game we had a home match and I didn't play. So it was like, that messes with you
Mm.
mentally. And I think the start of the year we kind of had like a honeymoon phase of preseason went well, it was exciting. The new season was here. The opening weekend we started off with 2 wins. That's where like I scored my first goal. Like it was all well, and that kind of hit like a slowly spiraling downhill slope from there. I think the leadership on our team from a player standpoint was excellent. I was very thankful for the captains I had, especially one of them. They were super good to me on the field and off it. Um, and we just had certain individuals in the program and the coaching leadership that made life really, really hard for me. Uh, just some things that were said, directed at my teammates especially, and at myself. So, you know, like words have a lot of meaning, and a lot happened, just with stuff that was said, but also
Mm.
some of his actions, especially directed at me. It kind of I didn't want to be like an all about like me, 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 but it just felt like day in, day out, there'd just be something that he would just direct at me that would just be like so degrading, so disrespectful, and I was just like, why? And during the season, I'm just that guy. Like I was rooting for him because it's like
Mm.
to go through a turnover of coaches as an athlete is so exhausting because you just want to find the guy that you can just like that you can trust, they can trust you and you're building something together. So I was rooting for him and everybody that's around me, like my teammates, my family knows that was my mindset. Like I was rooting for him. I was trying my best to just like want him to succeed and that's truly how I felt. And then after the season concluded and I kind of had time to come down from everything and pray about it and talk to my family about it, I realized that like I deserve better. Everybody deserves better in terms of what was being offered to us as players, what was happening to us, how we were treated as players, and I was like I simply deserve better. And at the university, I'm at like I wanted to stay 4 years. I didn't want to transfer. Like my introverted personality, like the idea of starting over again,
Sure.
absolutely did not want that. That was super hard for me. But the more as time went on, the more I prayed about it, the more I was able to talk to people about it. I realized that it's the right move for me
Mhm.
to move on. And in that, it went from a lot of worry, a lot of stress, a lot of anxious thoughts to the state I'm at right now is a very peaceful state and kind of like a energized excitement state of the potential of what's next for me. So
Yeah.
the shift of that is definitely encouraging, but definitely what has happened so far is not at all what I expected. I think every high school athlete that wants to play college sports, there's like just such an excitement about it from just what they see everywhere, and it's like college sports is great. And then once you're in it, and it's absolutely true, it is great, but it's there's a lot of other stuff that happens that
Mm.
only happens once you're in it, and once you're in it, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard stuff, man. And
Wow.
obviously, you know, as a college athlete yourself.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like when like the love of the game is beautiful, and that's the thing. Like I mean, I say it all the time, and you can maybe even say like the purest form of sport, I think, is the high school level, and then
Yeah,
from there in college it becomes kind of like a job, more like a job. It's
yeah,
it's it's the 2 hour practices, the lifts, all of that. That's just the bare minimum,
yeah.
plus all the stuff you do on the outside.
Definitely a job at the college level
Yeah,
because it's year round. Where as high school, obviously you're playing for a few months, and obviously the players that take it seriously, they'll play all year round. But it's
yeah.
different in college with everything you have to balance.
So just kind of like in hearing all of the things that you just shared, it sounds like, the leadership kind of had a real um their leadership style wasn't the most productive, right? And
It
I
was
think
extremely poor. Yeah,
yeah. And I think, that's a opportunity, right? There's going to be times all the time, right? You're going to have bad bosses, you're going to have discouragement, like you're going to have opportunities that you're going to need to learn from. And, hearing you say that it was in the midst of all of that, and I mean, knowing you the way that I know you, it sounds like this was probably some of the hardest couple months you've ever been through.
yeah.
you know, what was it about that verse of being still and knowing that I am God that really resonated with you to help get you through this? Because as tough as you are, as mentally strong as you are, no human probably in their own accord probably could have gotten through it to
Yeah.
the point now where you're at peace. I mean, sure, people endure stuff all the time,
Hmm.
but there's one thing to get through something versus you've experienced it, you've processed it, and now you're on the other side of it and you don't feel anger or a bitterness, you're at peace. Like
Yeah.
that isn't something that most people can just do. That is a supernatural thing that I believe only God can do. So what is it about being still and knowing that he's God that helped you get through all of that?
I think being still was during the season. I really had no idea what was next for me. Like I was truly committed to that university and staying there, and then after it, just continuing the idea of just being still and knowing that He is God and there's plans for me. And in Jeremiah it says there's prosperous plans for me.
Mm.
To keep that idea. So just trying to like encourage myself, and then as kind of things. It was just a matter of trust. And as an athlete, you have to trust your teammates, you have to trust your coach. So I've kind of built myself upon trust as a part of who I am as an athlete and as a human, just because that's what you're taught to do in sports. So, God is my life coach, and I had to trust his game plan and his management style of my life and what he had for me.
Mm.
And then as things started to like take shape, it was my dad just one random night he was sitting on the couch, and obviously we were talking about all that's happened the last few months, and it was when I was home for Thanksgiving break a few weeks ago, and he brought up a university that he came across, and he was like, "Have you ever looked at this university?" And I was like, "No." I heard of it because it's in a familiar conference that we played some opponents in, and it's in a conference that my brother played college sports in. So I heard of the university, never looked into it. So I was like, "No, I never looked into it." And that was kind of the end of the conversation. I just kind of wasn't really in the mood around that time to kind of, think of switching at that time. And then I kind of just continued to pray about it and pray about it. And then I was like, whatever, I'll look at it. And I looked at the university, and I just got, in contact with their players and their coach. And then look one thing after another. It became messages from their players, and then it became phone calls with their coach, and then it became more phone calls with their coach, and then calls with their players. So it was like, and then the university itself gave me like offers financially, and so just more and more things started to take place. And as more things started to take place, the more I trusted that God had a plan for me all
Mhm.
along. And the more I would see things kind of come together, the more at peace I'd become, which I think that's for everybody. Like
Yeah.
it was hard for me to kind of sit back when I was at square one of like, crap, what's next to be like, you know, at peace with anything. And then as one thing after another, it was just kind of like as an athlete, like when your confidence is going, you're gaining momentum, you're more productive. And that's kind of just how I
Mhm.
felt with how God was just laying things at my feet. And it was just, I just had to sit back and let him coach
Yeah.
and me trust him.
What was the hardest part? Like if you had to boil it down to like maybe one or two things, what was the hardest part about the last couple months of your first few months of your sophomore year?
Think the hardest part of my first few months was, you know, a new coach coming in and kind of trying to build a whole new identity compared
Mhm.
to what I was recruited to and what I was brought into. So that was a hard switch. And he brought in a whole new aspect of training, physical training. So from a physical standpoint, I think that was the hardest. I think from just a lifestyle, mental, spiritual standpoint is I was dealt with a lot of crap that I've never dealt with my whole life, and I've played soccer my whole life.
Mhm.
From a club standpoint to a high school standpoint, I've played in, with a whole bunch of different players from all different backgrounds, with coaches from different backgrounds, and what I experienced and how I was treated, it was something that I don't wish upon anybody that plays athletics because I think most people they would have been treated the way they were and they would have given up and absolutely rightly so. They would
Mhm.
have said the heck with this and they're done. And I wouldn't blame them. So I think that was the hardest part of like why me? Like I didn't understand like I picked this university. It's built upon, high spiritual values and what I was getting in return was absolutely not that. So
Yeah.
it was just a mixture of a little bit of anger, but a lot of just confusion
Yeah.
and just hurt of like I just feel like this shouldn't happen at any university. It doesn't matter if it was this one, it could have
Right.
been, like Georgetown. Like I feel like it shouldn't matter.
Right.
Um, Considering that a so-called, Christian coach could treat individuals like that. And I've played under only a couple other Christian coaches at my high school, and the rest of them, including like really high level club, were not Christians, but they didn't treat any of their players like that. So it was a lot of confusion, a lot of hurt, a lot of
Yeah.
anger. That was definitely the hardest part, considering,
Sure.
you work so hard to get to the college level, and you're only there for 4 years,
Yeah.
if you're lucky. So it's like you don't have much time. So
No, and I think it's important also to note too, right? So, I mean, it's not just like, and maybe you guys listening and maybe you have a coach that yells a lot or is maybe loud. Like you've played for those
I
coaches.
have.
You have
I'm
played
sitting next to one of them.
you've
Yeah.
played for those loud yellers and screamers. So what we're talking about, and I guess this is kind of like the segue and like, how important is it, right? So I know you the way that I know you, and for those of you listening, I've known Austin literally his entire life. So there's a lot of understanding of the situation here, which is why I wanted to have him on the podcast, is just to talk about the influence of a coach. So, like I know your first year there, you didn't get a lot of minutes, but you had a coach that really cared about you as a
Yeah.
human, really cared about you as discipleship, and took the extra time into it. If
Yep.
you were to compare, you know, that versus to who, playing for your dad in high school and playing for even the other coaches that you played for, right? Like, what is the influence of a coach and how powerful is it when you're looking at how it can impact an athlete?
Well, I think your confidence comes from your coach, and your coach is the one that when you have a coach that truly believes in you and you feel it, it can do unimaginable things to your production as an athlete and like who you are as a human and how you are throughout the day. So it's just a coach gives you confidence. And I remember, my first experience of when I was being recruited and looking at what schools I was going to, the ID camps I would go to, and how the coaches would encourage the people that they were recruiting. And it was like I always just remembered how they talked to me when I would simply complete a pass, when I would simply make a good run, when I would make a mistake, how they would encourage me, and like that kind of confidence boost. That was like right there. That was how I wanted to be as a player, with how I treated my teammates, and also with how like even over the summer doing soccer camps, that's how I wanted to coach the kids at camp because I knew how much it meant to me as at that point a senior in high school who was playing high level soccer. So I knew if it meant that much to me, it'd mean a lot to anybody. So I'm just all about, confidence. And I think the coach has a lot on his plate in terms of he's trying to get results and he's also trying to build up good humans. And I think if a coach is striving to do his job to give his players as much confidence on the field and in life as possible, I think that's what I would want in a coach. I
Yeah.
want to walk out to training every day, to a game every day, knowing that my coach trusts me, but also he's just trying to give me confidence knowing that like I can go out and I can perform and I can do anything I'm capable of just because of the confidence that
Mhm.
the coach can give. It's something as simple as encouraging, as noticing like a good run, a bad pass, a good pass. Like a coach needs to give his players confidence because soccer is a long, hard game, and for players that are playing the long, hard game with no confidence,
Yeah.
it's a long 90 minutes. So
Mm.
a coach needs to give his players confidence, and if he's not, then he's failing at his job, and because he's failing, his player's going to fail.
Yeah. So, kind of, as we're winding down on this, like the biggest takeaway that I have from all of this is that, it would have been easy for you or any of your teammates, because it sounds like they all had a very similar experience. Like this wasn't limited just necessarily
Yeah,
to you, although, but the idea that, you guys were able to kind of get through the year kind of gives me the idea of, the difference between surviving and like thriving.
yeah,
And then, so that was the first thing is like you guys probably just feel exhausted by the time the season's over.
yeah,
But, what I think is interesting and what maybe people listening to this are listening to is that you're not stuck, right? Like you weren't stuck there. It's not like,
no,
well, I'm here for the next 4 years.
yeah,
Like sometimes we find ourselves in situations, right? God moves us how he moves us. And there's things that happen for reasons that we don't understand, right? But if Romans 8:28 says, God works all things together for good to those that love him, for those that are called according to his purpose, right? So, for whatever reason this is happening for you, it happened.
hmm
But you weren't powerless, you weren't stuck. I think a lot of times people feel like when things like this happen, that they're like, well, what can I do?
yeah.
Like, how can I get out of this? And I don't think I can. And I think that's something that I find beautiful is that we're in a situation where, if God's leading us in a direction, whether maybe he would have wanted you to stay, but it sounds like he was definitely leading you
Sounds like
away from it.
God was opening another door, and I think
Absolutely.
that's what he's doing. And I had two options. I could have, just continued to just dog it out, which I did, or I could have just hung up my cleats and been like, I think this is it for me. And I think had I done that, nobody would have blamed me. But I look at what God has done, not just for myself, but for my family and those around me through the game of soccer and how he's impacted our community through soccer. And it just wouldn't be right to me to just give up soccer just because things aren't going my way. I think that would have been selfish. And I think, it's a form of worship to God with how I train and how I play. And looking at it at that, like there's always something to play for. So
Yeah.
I have no intentions of letting anything stop me from just playing the game as long as I can. And this was definitely a major curveball thrown at me, but
Yeah.
oh well.
Well, the last thing I just want to ask is, actually, there's two more things. The last serious thing is, so if someone's out there listening, maybe in a similar situation, right, where things aren't going their way and they're doing everything right. I mean, obviously nobody's perfect, but
Yeah.
it's not like, you were out getting wasted the night before and coach was
hmm
being hard on you. Like you were doing everything the right
Yeah.
way and it still didn't seem fair.
Yeah.
How would you answer that or what kind of advice would you give to an athlete who might be listening to this, a young man specifically who might think, hey, it's not fair. I'm doing everything in my power that I can in coach or culture, whatever it is, this is still happening. What kind of advice would you give that
I
person?
think one is you're not the only one.
Hmm.
It happens to athletes all over. Um, especially as I mean, number two, like especially as young men, like you're going to go through things much harder than discouraging things on the soccer field. There's going to be discouraging things and very much more important things in life. And as a young man, you're expected to grow up and be a man and be a leader. And this is all stuff that's going to prepare you to be a better leader, to be a better human, to be a better man of God. I know to be a better leader, human, and man of God, like the last 2 years have definitely shaped me for that for the rest of my life. I'll be better in every aspect of my life and my walk with God because of what's happened. So I think you have to look at not just how this is hurting you, but you have to look at how you can grow from it. And that's what I've done. Um, and yeah, you just can't, defeat yourself more than you're already being,
Mm,
hurt by everything that's coming at you. You just have to know that you're not the only one, and you have to make yourself better from it, because at the end of the day, like, you're the one making excuses for yourself. Like, nobody's gonna feel sorry for you. Like, it happens to everybody. People go through,
mm.
immeasurably hard things. And yeah,
No, that's so true. And you said something just interesting, just in that, like, you know that God has a plan. But in order for you to understand that, there has to be that level of trust, right?
yeah,
That trust that God is for you, that God is good, that God wants, He has a plan to prosper all of us, give us
mhm,
all a hope in the future. It's just letting Him be in control versus
yeah,
us being in control. And a lot of times we try to fix it ourselves rather than
yep,
just let Him be God, even though it sucks.
yep. And we're always wrong. God is always right. So,
Oh man, that's the truth. So the last thing I wanted to say is I just didn't know if you had anything specific in your life that you wanted to plug, any YouTube channels perhaps, or anything like that.
definitely check out Johnsy's Food Corner on YouTube. Subscribe, help the empire grow. Um, Starting a grilled cheese food truck come spring 2026. Be ready for that. It's gonna be immense. It's gonna be one of the greatest food powerhouses the Northeast has ever seen.
Let's go.
And number three, probably the least significant, is my brother just got married, so that's no big deal. So, well, he didn't just get married; he got engaged.
Got
But
engaged. He's engaged to be married. So
so
sorry, ladies.
I now have an official sister. So
And she's pretty dope. We like her a lot.
yes, we do like Courtney. Shout out Courtney.
Shout out Courtney.
And Andrew, just don't screw up.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you all so much for Austin. Thank
Of
you
course, anytime.
for sitting down for the rare in-person
Yeah.
interview. This is only the third one we've ever done in person.
Well,
So,
I look forward to the next one where hopefully I have much better things to say. So,
listen, this is great. And all of you listening, thank you all so much. We've been on a little hiatus. We took November and December off, but we are hitting off the new year with our very first episode with Austin Johns right here. So, thank you all. And we'll get back to our every week schedule. So, I hope you all have a very happy new year because by the time this releases, it'll be 2026.
2026.
All right. Check you all later. See you next time.